I'm not writing predominantly about my transness. I'm writing love songs. And yeah, there are songs which are more specifically about trans femme experience, but generally I'm just singing it about my own life, as everyone does. But even the most personal things to me are extremely politicized in this world.
That was jasmine.4.t, and this is SHEROES, a weekly podcast to amplify women, non-binary, and genderqueer voices in music across genres and generations. This is where we share our stories as a first step to making music better for everyone. I'm Carmel Holt. So earlier this year, our amazing mix engineer, Kelly Drake, whose ears I obviously trust, sent me a text asking, "Have you listened to Jasmine.4.t?" I was aware of her, but I hadn't listened yet to the full album. Kelly told me to listen on my next road trip. She's a trans artist signed to Phoebe Bridgers' label, Satisfactory Records, and opened for Lucy Dacus on her last tour. It's a vibe, she said. All right. I was sold. And as usual, Kelly was right. I was moved and completely blown away by You Are the Morning, Jasmine.4.t's full-length debut, which also, by the way, was produced by and features all three members of boygenius, Lucy Dacus, Phoebe Bridgers, and Julian Baker. And as luck would have it, Lucy put out her new album, Forever Is a Feeling, just a couple months later and announced Jasmine as one of her openers on the tour, which was coming to New York City to the iconic Radio City Music Hall for 2 nights. So I got to work setting up an interview, which I am so thrilled to be sharing with you for today's episode. But before we begin, some facts. Rights for the transgender community is hanging in the balance. Just a week prior to sitting down with Jasmine, the UK Supreme Court ruled that the legal definition of woman excludes trans women in a case with wide-reaching consequences for how equality laws are applied. Right here in the U.S., the threat of widespread loss of trans and LGBTQ plus rights is also intensifying. The consequence of this climate of discrimination and intolerance has led to violence and intimidation of transgender people rising to an all-time high. Anti-LGBTQ plus stigma also drives alarmingly high rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide. According to a recent survey from the Trevor Project, 9 in 10 transgender and non-binary youth experienced worsening mental health as a result of the wave of anti-transgender legislation. Jasmine's story of trauma, bravery, and transformation, thankfully, has an inspiring and heartwarming new chapter brought about through support from community, PTSD therapy, and music. If topics of suicide and gender-based violence are triggering for you, please listen with care. We take you now to Mophonic Studios in New York City as we proudly feature Jasmine.4.t as this week's SHERO in the Spotlight. Jasmine, welcome to SHEROES. I am so excited to meet you and to have you here.
So excited to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is an exciting moment. We're here at Mophonic Studio downtown.
Yeah.
Just throwing distance from Radio City where you played last night, night 1 of 2. Oh my God,
yeah, that was incredible.
I know you just told me everything, but tell us again.
I actually withheld some pretty important details deliberately.
please tell us everything.
Okay, so, where to begin? I just want to start with the main piece of tea that I've been holding on. So, I was opening for Lucy Dacus, and Lucy has this song, Bullseye, which she recorded with Hosier. Hosier does the second verse. And Lucy invited me and Katie to sort of on alternate nights sing Hosier's part. So Katie did it first time, and I thought I could probably do a better Hosier impression than that. And this was in DC. I sent Lucy a screenshot of a full spade that was in stock round the corner.
Amazing.
And after we rehearsed the song in soundcheck, I walked around the corner and it just seemed too good to be true. There was a costume shop on the same block. The beard was a Confucius beard that was down to here.
Yeah.
So I took it to to Lucy's dressing room, and I was like, look at this. And she was like, that's ridiculous. We need to trim that. So I sort of like held it up to my face. And Lucy tried to sort of Hosierify the Confucius beard, because Hosier has quite a sort of, cropped look. As I did pre-transition. So it was quite a little throwback for me, actually. It was quite funny. It's nice to sort of be in a place of like having reached that place where I'm comfortable to do that. Do you know what I mean? To do man drag again.
Yes.
Having done it for the first 29 years of my life.
Wow.
But yeah, it's so funny. Like after that first night, I think I came on stage as Hosier with the beard. I think that me and Katie got a little bit competitive. So like the third night, Katie came out with a better beard. This was in Boston. And then on the second night in Boston, I went and got a wig and an even better beard. And so I was like ready to come out last night, side stage at Radio City in New York in my Hosier drag getup, beard, wig. Had my pack on for my in-ears, had my wireless mic ready to run on stage. And a figure walks towards me out of the backstage. And I'm like, that can't be. That's not. No, that's Hosier.
Stop.
30 seconds before I'm due to go on stage. And I just go. And without really saying anything, he just takes the microphone off me. I give him my pack, and my personal in-ears, belong in my ears. They're probably really waxy and gross. And he just sticks
my God.
sticks them in and runs on stage and sings the verse.
That is amazing.
And I just stand there like watching, like what the fuck just happened to me? And then, he came off and he was like, thank you, who are you? And I was like, I'm Hosier.
That is the most ridiculous story.
And then he was so sweet. And I was like chatting to his girlfriend, and I was like, this is the most ridiculous thing. And then like he came back to like the catering area, and we sort of hung out a little bit. And I told him what happened. He was so confused. He was so sweet though. Yeah, and we got some pictures together of like me in my Hosier drag and him.
That's amazing.
Being IRL Hosier, obviously. But yeah, probably like the most hilarious thing to have ever happened to me.
At Radio City Music Hall, no less.
At Radio City Music Hall last night.
Wow. I cannot wait for night 2, which I am going to tonight.
Yeah. I mean, who knows who's going to come out?
Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to top that one, though.
No, yeah, I mean, yeah, truly. But yeah, we've been doing like quite a lot of like switching it up. So like Katie sang Phoebe's part in Guy Fawkes' Test Code Dissociation during my set. And then I think tonight I'm going to go on and sing Mitski's part in Katie's song As Good As It Gets. And then maybe also do Hosier. Maybe Katie's going to do Hosier. Maybe Hosier's going to do Hosier. Maybe someone else is going to do Hosier. Who knows? But yeah, the vibe of this tour is fully deranged and so fun and so good. Like, I am having so much fun. And it's just like insane that like, what's going on out there in America and in the UK, all these like horrible things that are happening to so many trans women. I feel so lucky just to be like living in this like protected, safe gay bubble.
100%.
And actually able to just like live my best life like this. It's fucking wild.
It's wild and so important.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you couldn't have planned this way. I said to you when you came in, like, this is a truly
dream.
Magical story.
Yeah.
I want to tell this story, which I hope you're not tired of telling by now.
No, happily.
But I want to get to a clip of a song. Where would you want to start if you were sharing this album for the first time with somebody to get them started on this journey? What track would you lead them to first?
That's a really good question. I think I want to say Woman, because it was the first song I wrote out of all of them chronologically, it was a song I wrote the evening of coming out to my then spouse as a trans woman.
Wow.
And it was a conversation that I went into with some optimism, and it didn't go well. And I am very proud of myself for just, standing in my power and being honest to who I am, So, yeah, I think that was a moment. That feels to me like where the thread of this album really started.
You say it's cruel and I keep...
It's actually where the album ends now.
Yeah.
Is track 13. It's called Woman from jasmine.4.t's full-length debut album, You Are the Morning. Jasmine is our guest today on SHEROES, and I'm Carmel Holt. And that features this incredible chorus and, of course, your friends, the boys.
Yeah.
When we were going into the song, I asked you where we should begin musically and how you would set this up to a newcomer in your story.
Yeah.
So you took us to that evening where you came out to your then spouse. It didn't go well.
Yeah.
Tell us more. What happened next?
So yeah, my marriage ended, and I tried to move back in with my parents, and I think they definitely tried hard to be supportive. I think that transphobia plays out in so many different ways, and it's so deeply ingrained in our society, and I think it really plays out in familial relationships, and their reaction to my transition made living with them impossible. I needed to leave. So I was living in Bristol at the time. So I decided to go to Manchester because I had a few friends there, and I was just sort of couch surfing there. I didn't really have anywhere else to go. And during that time, I was, transitioning, presenting as a woman for the first time in public, trying to access hormones. I was also very ill. I have ME. And also, I had experienced a whole bunch of hate crimes, some of which were violent. And I had PTSD as a result. And some days I was just sort of a shell and wanting to end it all. And I was staying on my friend Han's floor. I remember it was bonfire night, Guy Fawkes night, and which is a night in the UK where there's lots of fireworks, and they were really sort of setting me off with my PTSD symptoms, all the loud bangs. And Han was like, oh, maybe if I take you out for a walk and we see the fireworks, then it won't be so bad somehow, and you'll be able to sort of contextualize it. But one of the fireworks went off in the street right next to us, and I just seriously freaked out, and I don't remember anything from then until getting back to her house. And when we got back, I remember sort of tripping over her doormat and sort of starting and being like, what just happened? And she said, oh, we just got back. We just been to the shops and picked up some groceries. And I was like, I don't remember that at all. And she's like, yeah, I thought you weren't doing so good. But yeah, so I wrote the song Guy Fawkes Test Code Dissociation about that experience and how scary it was. At the time, I was doing eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy, which really helped me. And it's a very common trauma therapy nowadays. And a couple of weeks later, I sort of finished off this song. I wrote the second verse, which sort of imagines, this light at the end of the tunnel of me healing and transitioning and living the life that I want to live as some kind of magical supermarket customer. Also, when I recorded the demo of that song in a very moldy box room in Manchester, I wanted to sort of incorporate some of the sort of eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy stuff which involves a lot of bilateral stimulation.
Yeah.
And so I recorded it with sort of 2 vocal tracks singing alternate lines, and each one was panned to a different side of the stereo field. So like the first line would come in on the left side and the next line would come in on the right side. Skipping a bit of the story, when
That's
we
okay.
recorded it in this magical future that I am now living in, Phoebe Bridgers sang those alternate lines, which is wild to me. And yeah, that's just like such an insane full circle moment for me, just to be able to be like, oh, that dream actually came true.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
To know that you can actually imagine a future and manifest that.
Yeah. And I feel like that really comes across when people listen to the record and they see me out in the world having lived through that and survived and happy.
Yeah.
And I think I know it's brought a lot of hope to a lot of trans people, especially trans women, who are really struggling in the current climate of hate towards trans people. And yeah, they've been reaching out and telling me how much it's meant to them, and that's meant so much to me.
I mean, there's so many layers to that too. Like, I'm somebody that also went through EMDR.
Oh, wonderful.
And I'm really familiar with what that journey's like, you know?
It's topsy-turvy, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And I think, you know, when I say there's so many layers here, like, not only are you showing by being that visibility,
Yeah.
but also this part of the story is like helping people find a pathway, if it's available to them,
Yeah, fully.
to deal with PTSD.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot of shame associated with speaking openly about mental health stuff.
Yes, exactly.
And that's something that I've had to process as well. But yeah, I feel like it's, it's something that I've learned to do and I want to do now. And I think it does help people to know that, things can get better if you get help.
We have jasmine.4.t with us on SHEROES. The album is called You Are the Morning, and that's Guy Fawkes Tesco Dissociation. And I'm Carmel Holt. So this falls about midway through the album. And I know that Lucy had a lot to do with the sequencing of this record. And I loved her logic for where this falls in the album sequence.
Yeah. I mean, Lucy has such an incredible brain for this kind of thing, like the sequencing of the tracks, editing as well. Like, I think because me and Lucy go way back, we actually played together for the first time 9 years ago, which is so wild.
That's so wild.
And we toured together for the first time 7 years ago in 2018 for the Historian album tour, which was obviously pre-transition for me.
Yeah, I was hoping you could put that in the timeline too.
Yeah. So I came out during COVID, basically, and started my transition during COVID. So started 2020, 2021, and moved to Manchester around that time as well. I was hoping to open for Lucy in Manchester, actually, but I was just too sick with like long COVID symptoms. But anyway.
So can I ask a quick question here that came to me when I was listening to a conversation with you and Lucy? So were you out yet when you first met her?
No.
Do you think that she saw you, though?
Good question. I think I just feel like we really like resonated with each other, and we really admired each other as songwriters.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're both incredibly open people.
Yeah.
Lucy has described us as cracked open.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's accurate. And I don't know whether she knew then, but she was one of the first people that I came out to when I came out. I think she was the second person after my ex-spouse. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, like she was the one who I was always like sending her demos and vice versa. And yeah, she told Phoebe. It was actually while they were filming the music video for Not Strong Enough, and they were driving around between locations and they were like playing each other their friends' music, and Lucy was like, oh, you know who I listen to a lot? My friend Jasmine. This is her demos. And Phoebe was like, whoa, I'm signing this bitch.
Amazing.
So yeah, thanks to Lucy, that's how I got signed. And Lucy had always said that it was like kind of like a dream of hers to produce my music one day. So yeah, and Phoebe had said that also. So I was like, well, you're going to have a conversation about that, I think. And then they both decided to produce my album, and it just so happened that Julian Baker was in town. It was the first 2 weeks of December 2023 that we recorded in LA. So I formed a band of trans women in Manchester.
Brilliant.
And we all flew out to record at Sound City. Yeah, with Phoebe Bridgers, Lucy Dacus, and Julian Baker, which is just like the most insane sentence I've ever said in my life, and will always be. And yeah, it was just gorgeous. It was such an experience. But yeah, as you said, Lucy had like a huge part in shaping the album, specifically with like the sequencing. She created this huge board of like all of the different tracks. I think it started off in notebooks to start with, and we would sort of discuss potential orders. And I think there was 14 tracks that we were hoping to record,
Right.
but we only managed to record 12, which kind of became 13 with the transition track. But yeah, they all got put into this order by Lucy, and the sort of sequencing is something that I've never like spent so much time on, but like it was so thought out. And Guy Fawkes' Disco Dissociation is at the beginning of side B, because it's a banger, but also because it's immediately preceded by the like physical disconnect of having to flip the record over. And like immediately before that, you have like My Best Friend's House, which is a song that I wrote pretty much at the same time when I was staying on Hatton's floor. And it's just, yeah, a song about like that care and joy that I was experiencing in parallel. So yeah, it's just like a really cool way to sort of have the form mirror the meaning.
And again, I feel like there's this very meta thing going on of you're both talking about so much in this album about friendship and community and queer community.
Yeah.
And this parallel of that ability, as you said, I think the words you used, that you were both cracked open. You saw each other, at least in that way, when you first met.
Yeah.
And there's a vulnerability that you were sharing with her from the very beginning. And likewise, I think.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
you know, entrusting her with really like taking the songs that you wrote out of a pure place of your experience and crafting it in this way that then will be shared out is amazing. You know?
No, it's wild. Yeah. And I think like a big aspect of that is the song New Shoes for me.
Yes.
Which is a song that featured on my debut EP, which I wrote and recorded pre-transition. And it's a song about the relationship that became my marriage. And I wrote it like early in that relationship. And it was like a favorite of Lucy's when I played it on tour. And Lucy like requested that I re-record it for the record. And I was immediately like, no way, I cannot do that. And it was going to be too painful. I was like, you know, still waiting for like the divorce to be finalized, processing that. And yeah, it was heartbreaking, really. But then, yeah, to be there in that space with my new chosen family and singing about forming a family actually started to feel right. And so I decided to do it. But I couldn't get through a full take without breaking down. And I was actually thinking about the dog that I lost in the divorce, which is, something that I will never get over. And we just stuck with the final take where I just like fully broke down in the vocal booth. But yeah, all my bandmates and Lucy and Phoebe and Julian all just came in and held me and comforted me. And I remember there was like sort of a conversation after the recording session about editing it. and taking that part out. And I was like, no, I think we need to leave it in because it really represents what you said, that vulnerability and the fact that we created this incredible, caring environment to make the music in. And yeah, it just felt like it just reflected that perfectly, you know?
Totally about to cry myself. Let's hear a little bit of New Shoes here. We have jasmine.4.t with us on SHEROES. New Shoes from jasmine.4.t's full-length debut album, You Are the Morning. Jasmine is our guest today on SHEROES, and I'm Carmel Holt. You mentioned being in an all-trans band that you put together, trans femme band, which is amazing. I wanted to talk a little bit about music as activism, you know, because it's something that I talk about a lot on SHEROES for femme folks, for queer folks. Like, you don't go into it thinking, I'm going to do this to represent, I'm going to do this to make a point, I'm going to do this for the good of my community. But then if you're somebody that's othered or don't have an equal voice,
you don't really have a choice.
You don't really have a choice.
Yeah.
So could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, it's just like, I'm not writing predominantly about my transness. I'm writing love songs. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, there are songs, for example, Highfield, which are more specifically about trans femme experience. That one's about street violence. But yeah, generally it's sort of, I'm just singing it about my own life, as everyone does. But even the most personal things to me are extremely politicized in this world. And given all the shit that's happening to trans people right now, you know, like, especially in the UK, I feel like the UK has now overtaken the US in terms of transphobic policy. In the UK Supreme Court has declared that trans women are no longer eligible for, like, protection as women. We're no longer legally women. And in one fell swoop, they've also done a whole bunch of other things, including biological determinism and the definition of lesbianism and the definition of gender for cis people as well. You know, this is something that happened in the US just a couple of weeks before with the executive order, which led to me having an M in my visa. And yeah, it's wild. Also, and this is something that didn't get much press, but the health secretary, Wes Streeting, in the UK, has told doctors not to give trans people blood tests, which is going to kill people. It's like, that's never happened in history in any country.
What is the reasoning behind that even?
There isn't. It was very much on the down low. Like, there was no press release. It was just advice that was given to GPs, family doctors in the UK without any kind of fanfare.
What is the effect of all this on trans folks, on you personally?
Me personally?
Yeah.
I'm in a very privileged position. I am in this bubble of queer people protected by a lot of cis queer women who I owe so much to. And I feel pretty safe. The most terrifying thing for me is obviously crossing borders, especially now that my passport says I'm trans. So many terrible things happen to trans women at borders around the world. Strip search is often used as a humiliation tactic, especially here. And trans women are kept in men's detention centers and raped very often. So that's something that is very present in my mind every time I cross a border, especially now that I have that in my passport. So, yeah, that's how it's affected me. It has affected other trans people in general a lot more than that. Trans women in prisons have all been moved into men's prisons, and most trans women in prisons get raped multiple times. Many trans women don't survive imprisonment in men's prisons. And I think that's, a group that no one has any sympathy for. Trans women are no longer accepted in so many women's shelters, homeless shelters. And obviously homelessness, something affected me, something that affects so many trans people, especially trans women. And Edinburgh Women's Shelter famously was one of the first to announce that it was no longer accepting trans women. And the community has actually responded in this incredible way of setting up emergency fund for trans women escaping domestic abuse. But yeah, it's going to have like a massive effect on trans women who are discriminated against at work, because we no longer have that level of legal protection to that kind of discrimination. I myself have been harassed. Well, I've had so many street violence incidents, but also I've been harassed a lot by police officers and what we call PCSOs, community support officers, which are volunteers in the UK who target minority communities and protesters especially. I used to report those incidents, but obviously reporting the police to the police doesn't work, and I just got laughed at basically, so obviously I stopped doing that. But yeah, any kind of trans woman who's trying to, stand up to any kind of discrimination, whether it's on the street or in the workplace, now we only have this very shaky protection of discrimination due to gender identity, which in a world where we're now called men legally doesn't really stand up in court. And the women who are most discriminated against are Black women, disabled women, women of colour, and obviously there's the double jeopardy if you're trans as well. So yeah, I think we're going to see enormous spikes in joblessness, homelessness for trans women around the world. And as a consequence, huge spikes in suicides. We've already seen a huge increase in street violence. Last year was the most violent year against trans people worldwide. Every year we have this Trans Day of Remembrance in November, where we read some of the names of the trans people who've died by violence. And last year was the longest list on record. It was 427 names.
Jesus.
And I know 3 people in Manchester personally who died by violence last year who weren't on that list. So it's just the people who get submitted to the website. And we all feel like incredibly close to death. I myself have had delusions that I am dead. It's a difficult experience to describe, really. And what really breaks my heart is that around the world we are seeing puberty blockers being banned for trans children. And this is a very targeted attack against trans children specifically. Cis children are still prescribed puberty blockers for precocious puberty regularly. They're very safe. They've been used for decades. But because people think that somehow trans children going through the kind of puberty that they would go through if they didn't have HRT is somehow more moral or better, whereas we know for a fact that it just kills so many children. And it nearly killed me. I attempted suicide as a teenager when I started puberty. And, that was the 2000s, and people didn't really talk about access to puberty blockers back then, but had I known that that was a thing, maybe I could have got on them. And I think had it been 10 years later, I probably would have. And knowing that that's been taken away now just destroys me.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's really heartbreaking.
Yeah. It's happened in Australia, it's happened in New Zealand, it's happened here, it's happened in the UK. It's happened everywhere. And like to get that back is going to take a long, long time. And a lot of children are going to die as a result. And no one cares. No one cares because they're trans. Like, we will never forget the people that did this to us. I'm so fucking angry.
With good reason.
But yeah, that's yeah, we're already seeing more trans children killing themselves as a result of that, just over the last few months.
So music is activism, huh? Wow.
Yeah, that was the question, wasn't it?
Well, I think it's so important and so brave what you're doing, talking about all this. And for cis hetero people that don't understand and aren't educated,
Yeah.
Like we need to educate ourselves about this. It's of the utmost urgency.
Yeah.
Just reading about what was going on in the UK and these so-called TERFs, talking about radical feminism as though this self-righteous bullshit that has nothing to do with sisterhood at all.
And just like the framing of it in the BBC.
Yeah. It's disgusting.
As like, this is a win for women's rights.
Yeah.
It's insane. What world are they living in? They're living in J.K. Rowling's pocket.
Exactly.
It's nuts. She's donated so much money to these movements. And what's fucking hilarious is, there's this group of trans kids in the UK. Trans kids deserve better. And they went into this TERF conference and interrupted J.K. Rowling. It was actually marketed as a lesbian conference, which is fucking hilarious because J.K. Rowling is straight. And she was opening the conference by dialing in from her private yacht in the Mediterranean. And a bunch of trans kids went in there and released a bunch of crickets. So they had to cancel the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she's just a bitter old woman, isn't she?
But anyway, I mean, I just want to say out loud, we need to really rally around our trans brothers and sisters right now.
Really? Yeah. Yeah.
Like more than ever.
Yeah. And what's more is like, there are so many of us who aren't in community, who are still living with abusive partners, who are still living with their unsupportive families. And we need to reach out to those people and find them and bring them somewhere safe. And I think that's the top priority, is to, reach out to those who might need it.
And thank God you are here and safe, Jasmine. What a gift you are to all of us.
No, thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be here, honestly. Like, I can't believe my luck. I get to sing in front of sea of adoring fans in Radio City Music Hall. Like, what the fuck?
Can we pick another track from the record?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I felt like I talked about Highfield, so
Yeah,
I like that one.
I like that one too. Anything more you want to tell us about the song before we go into it?
Yeah, it's a song that I wrote about my experience of PTSD following street violence and trying to just go for a walk in the park and failing.
That's Highfields from the debut full-length album from Jasmine.4.t, our guest today on SHEROES. I'm Carmel Holt. I'd love to, if you don't mind, talk about how you and music first met up.
Yeah, I think basically my uncle sadly died by suicide when I was in year 2 at school. So I was like 7. And he was, very close to our family. And it was horrible circumstances. And I think that was sort of a very traumatic experience for my whole family. And he left me his guitar. And I'm autistic, and I started just really focusing on that as a child. And it was like my whole life. I would come home from school and I would pick up guitar and I would learn songs off the internet. I had like this huge folder of guitar tabs that I downloaded.
What was your favorite artist or music to study?
Jimi Hendrix early on.
Yeah.
Definitely. Especially Are You Experienced? I think that is such a beautiful album. And then through my teenage years, Elliott Smith. And
you can hear that a lot in your music for sure.
Thank you. Yeah. That's such a compliment. Yeah, just like his guitar work, but his chords and the expression is just unparalleled, I think. And I got into a bunch of other sort of singer-songwriters. Iron and Wine was a big one for me as well. Sam Beam.
Love that guy.
Yeah. M. Ward as well. Sufjan Stevens. Joanna Newsom. Nick Drake. And then, more recently, Adrian Linker, Big Thief. Did you hear the new record? The live one that she just put out?
Didn't it just drop
it just
today?
Dropped midnight.
No, I haven't listened to it yet.
I've had it on repeat.
I've only been listening to Jasmine.4.t, sorry.
I got back to the hotel at 2 a.m. and I put it on and it's just incredible.
I mean, talk about a master. Like, I bow down to Adrienne all the time.
Just, the most cracked open.
Yes, the most cracked
seriously,
open,
she is a conduit for the cosmos.
Agreed,
She is phenomenal. Just like the creativity, but the vulnerability and the honesty and the self-acceptance and the emotional acceptance that she's coming from in her writing is just incredible. It's so powerful. Yeah, the new record, it's so cool because it feels like this really like behind the scenes live recording. It's beautifully recorded on tape and it has moments of sound checks and it's all sort of cut up and random bits recorded on top of other bits and snippets of songs and audience interactions and bits of like door staff talking, and it's so beautiful. Just her songwriting, her prolific songwriting has really moved me, and her guitar playing, her improvisation, and instrumentals is something that has really changed my life. Like Songs and Instrumentals, the double album came out just around when I came out, and it was like in COVID. It was a record, sort of like this breakup record that she recorded in a cabin in the woods on a tape machine during COVID, and it's just so gorgeous, and it's interspersed with the sounds of the fire and the cabin and the chimes on the porch and the surrounding woodland, and it's just perfect. And the first side of Instrumentals is called Music for Indigo, and it's something like 17 minutes long, and it's just a kind of collage of all of these pieces of acoustic improvisation in open tunings that she would do sort of in the evenings after recording the songs. And they're based on pieces that she would improvise for Indigo, the lover that the album is about.
Yeah.
So it's just queer and sad and precious and personal as an instrumental piece of music.
Yeah.
And I think that's very rare. And just the way that she plays, the way that she improvises, the way that she moves around the fretboard is so familiar and understandable. It's very linear. She's telling this incredible story of following what feels good. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I feel like I'm trying to do when I play guitar. And I've very explicitly mimic moments in Music for Indigo when I'm performing, especially in the title track of the album, You Are the Morning. The solo uses this kind of alternating bass in the drop tuning. I'm using Dadgad, whereas I think Music for Indigo is primarily in open D, which is a very similar tuning. And these kind of ascending and descending sixth intervals on like the fourth and sixth strings. And just, playing with that and like using the thumb for different bass notes. Yeah, it's just, and that's kind of just how I play guitar now. It's very much, deeply embedded in my psyche now. I've listened to that album probably on average once a day since it came out.
Wow.
Like it is like my grounding album. I listen to it before I go on stage. I listen to it when I'm on the flight. I listen to it on repeat when I'm asleep sometimes. It's just been with me through all of this.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it was funny when you were talking before about full circle to the beginning of this conversation when you're describing the beard situation at Radio City and Lucy trimming the beard. And I was thinking, what a great metaphor for like the role that she plays or played at least with these songs, because she's the editor, right?
she's getting in there.
Yeah, that's
doing
right.
the layering, the feathering.
Yeah, she's the one that's like kind of finding the one word or the one sentence, the one that's helped you focus some of these songs down.
No, very much, and especially in the title track.
Yeah.
You Are the Morning, because the demo of that is something like 8 minutes long.
That's what brought it back to my mind. Yeah.
And she cut out entire verses, entire choruses. You don't need to sing that again. And just like removing one word. I think there's a line which is like, I think I had it as like, and so if I stay. And she was like, just say if I stay. And stuff like that. And just like, because that's like the first line of the last verse. And then the first line of the penultimate verse then becomes kind of its parallel, because that says, now my time has been undone. And it just like really accentuates that. It's like this kind of like, am I done here or do I stay? Because I was, not in a good place then. And also just like the way that she put that either side of the guitar solo, which it wasn't before. They were like, it was just like a verse chorus structure. And the way that she edited it, it goes chorus, verse, chorus, middle section, verse, solo, verse, which is an insane structure. But it's really beautifully symmetric.
Perfect.
And it has it feels like a walk in the woods. It feels like there are all these diverging paths and you don't know which way you're going to go, which is, again, that's the form mimicking the meaning, which I think is so cool how she does that. And the song is about like queer people's ability to choose their own path. And, that's what You Are the Morning means. It's like you can be your own awakening, but you can also be the awakening of those around you. And you can reach out and help. And you can have this incredible capacity for solidarity and change.
I mean, I can't think of a better way to close our conversation, but I do want to do one thing with you, if you don't mind, before we do go to the song and say goodbye. I close each episode by handing my guests a SHEROES magic wand.
Oh my God.
So I'm going to hand one to you. You seem to be very good at making wishes or envisioning the future and making it come true. So I'm extra excited about this.
How do I switch it on?
Here you go.
Cool. Thank
Here
you.
go. So Jasmine, you now hold the SHEROES magic wand. And with the wand, you could change anything in music for women, for queer folks, for trans folks, for anyone that doesn't have an equal voice.
Yeah.
That is marginalized. What would be the first thing that you would change? First wave of the wand.
The first wave of the wand would be accessibility for shows and just like safety. I think for so many people, shows are not accessible, whether that's because they're unaffordable, whether that's because there's no seats, whether that's because it's dangerous getting to and from the show for them. And so, yeah, wave of the wand would be like anyone would be able to go to a show and be able to freely enjoy it like an abled cis white man could. That would be the first wave of the wand for sure.
May that wish come true. Jasmine, thank you for being with us on SHEROES. What a special conversation.
Thank you.
I appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been nice.
Many thanks to jasmine.4.t for being with us. Her full-length debut, You Are the Morning, is available now on Satisfactory Records. This conversation was edited for broadcast. Hear the full interview on the SHEROES podcast, available everywhere. If you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts of self-harm or suicide, connect to a crisis counselor 24/7, 365 days a year from anywhere in the U.S. via text, chat, or phone. Dial 988 or visit thetrevorproject.org. Both are 100% confidential and 100% free. SHEROES is produced by me, is mixed and mastered by Kelly Drake. Our original theme music is by Lucius. SHEROES is also a nationally syndicated radio show. Please visit SHEROESradio.com to find out more. Keep in touch on Instagram and Twitter at SHEROES Radio, and please consider leaving us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. That helps us grow and bring you more SHEROES. Until next time, remember, music is our superpower. I'm Carmel Holt. Thanks for listening. SHEROES is proud to present The Road to Joni, celebrating the legacy and impact of Joni Mitchell. Subscribe now to The Road to Joni, distributed by Talkhouse and available wherever you get your podcasts.